Hello, everybody. If you've heard that sound before for Wake Up Charlotte to go, you used to seeing the whole gang. No, it's just me. We usually have a show at this point, 11:30 to 12:30, but we have the Open that's going on right now. So I'm just going to be talking about the weather because we got a lot of big stories going on. For one, we do have a chance for severe storms yet again. We had some severe weather yesterday, and then we also have some brewing in the tropics. We easily, within just hours, could have our first named storm of the 2022 Atlantic hurricane season. Let's start a little bit closer to home. You see the green and you see the yellow. Now, the green doesn't mean all go. That just means a general chance for thunderstorms. This is also depicting it's really from Charlotte down to the south that has the most instability. It's going to be brewing through the day. Now, yesterday we did have a few severe thunderstorm warnings that produced some wind damage. Same thing goes. Don't really think that we have any spin to the atmosphere associated with the system. So really damaging winds is going to be the main threat that you're seeing with this coming storm system. You can see that thunderstorm fuel. I'm going to slowly go through it through the afternoon. We're seeing a few brighter shadings. Look at Wadesboro, that popping off. There are going to be some pockets that I think are going to be a little bit heftier than others as this storm system is pushing its way down to the south, where this is simply a quasi-stationary front or a cold front that's kind of moving around that eventually is going to be exiting the area. And it's also going to be blocking that tropical system. If we didn't have this setup, this remnants that is going to be plowing right through Florida could have a more northerly push, but then this system is really controlling our weather. So here's what it's going to look like through the day today. Starting to see, I think, our first storm really develop up in the mountains and the foothills a couple hours from now, and this is airing at about 11 o'clock. So we have 1 to 2 to 3 o'clock. At that point, I think most storms are around the I-40 corridor, but I want to let everyone know that pretty much after 2 o'clock, you're going to have a chance for a thunderstorm to bubble up. Today's also not as humid as what we had yesterday, but we still have enough storm fuel that's going to make a difference. It's also not as hot as we have been over the last couple of days, so at least it's kind of a break from the heat. Here's 4 o'clock, here's 5 o'clock. Still seeing isolated showers and storms. You can kind of see how this line is pushing through. That is that front that is draped across just like this. You kind of have that action. So that's why you're seeing the storms that are starting to line up right there. And then it starts to get a little bit more developed, especially along that front through Charlotte. This is the late afternoon heading into the evening. So anyone going to the Knights game, you might have a wet seat or at least a thunderstorm in the area at that point, but it's starting to push its way off towards the east. By the mid to late evening, if you have any sort of plans, I think you're good. That rain is getting out of here, and we're setting ourselves up for a pretty fantastic weekend. We're looking at the mid to the upper 80s, near normal conditions, lots of sunshine. I'm loving this. Also here, Jalen, bring me back full. Jalen's our director, by the way. Look me in the eyes right here. Take advantage of the reduction of how we feel outside as far as the mugginess goes, because soon we're not going to have as many breaks. Where I'm not saying it's going to be super comfortable, still will be a tad bit sticky, but it's not that oppressive mugginess that we really dealt with over the last couple of days. Yesterday wasn't as bad, really. It was on Wednesday. It's that air that surrounds. So this is a nice little break from all that before it starts to move on. Okay, now let's talk hurricanes. Here it is. We are looking at our next potential system, and that's why it has a lovely, easy name to flow off the tongue, Potential Tropical Cyclone 1. The reason why they do this is just showing that, hey, we need to give this a storm track, but it doesn't have a name. So we can't just say the Alex forecast because technically it hasn't happened yet. So the reason why, even though we have winds at 40 miles per hour, which is technically a tropical storm, we don't have the storm is because it needs, by technical definition, a closed surface wind circulation about a well-defined center. This is kind of a mess. You really don't have all that great of a center that is going around this low pressure system. You can see the general circulation. It goes like this, going back around. But then once it has kind of a tight center, which looks like that's kind of where it's going to be, then officially it'll become a tropical storm. So we're going to completely skip the tropical depression stage because we don't have that well-defined center. It'll immediately jump up to Tropical Storm Alex, our first one of the season. So our surface forecast, you can see that it has it right over Florida over the next 36 hours. And you can subtract from hour from this because this is updated a little bit earlier on this morning. That's going to put landfall by tomorrow morning into the afternoon for Florida. But you notice that little system, how I said that front was blocking us? It literally is guiding this thing out to sea. If not, we could have a much bigger impact rain-wise for the Carolinas. And by the way, rain-wise is the big story here. Look at these totals for Florida. Now, that 6 to 10 is likely going to be just offshore line, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that around Fort Myers that we will see have those upper single-digit totals. 3 to 6 inches is the norm across the area, and this is still a fairly quick-moving system, so that just shows how much rain that we're going to see through the course of the day. Meanwhile, since this system's pretty close to the Outer Banks in eastern Carolinas, 1 to 2 inches is possible on the eastern side of North Carolina from this system. So here's the full track of potential tropical cyclone 1. Soon, hopefully in just hours, we're going to be calling this Alex. Maybe if you're watching this by the afternoon, we've already upgraded because I think that circulation is pretty close. It's moving out towards the northeast at about 5 miles per hour, but it's going to pick up the pace. So by 8 p.m. tonight, it's northwest of Cuba, and then by 8 a.m. tomorrow, it's right off the shoreline. I would say about noon is where it's crossing Fort Myers. I think it's going to be completely clear of Florida, at least the center of the storm, by the late evening tomorrow, and then by Sunday morning, it's out in the middle of the Atlantic. And we actually have conditions that are kind of messing with the system and its general development. Once you have too much wind shear, that's what really throws off a storm. So let me try to bring up the wind shear for you, because there it is. So here's what the wind shear environment is. Whenever you have the red, that really is going to throw the system off, and that's exactly what we're looking at right now. A lot of red off towards the north, so that system's driving right into it. I can put the actual storm track and the spaghetti plots on there. It's living in the green and the yellow, but there's just enough wind shear to the north and the northwest that's knocking off this system, and that's why it's looking terribly disorganized right now, because it doesn't get that full realm to go on that full circulation. I'll show you there. So you see that northern part where it's a little bit more choppy? That's all that wind shear. So later on, calling this Alex, we have quite the name list that still has to go. Bonnie, Colin, Danielle, Earl, and Fiona will be the next ones. Gaston, I'm personally going to be amazed about. And Martin and Owen are 2 new names that are replacing Otto and Matthew from the 2016 storm list. I'm meteorologist Chris Mulcahy. Thank you so much for joining me to talk about the tropics and your weekend forecast. All in all, not too bad. Enjoy the first weekend of June. It's going to be a good one. Take care.